Sam here from Sheridan Computers. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Synology DS420 Plus NAS unit. Previously we've had a look at the DS220 Plus and also the DS1520 Plus. So I'll leave links to both of those videos at the end of this one. Before we do take a look at the unit, if you'd like to hire us for any storage related projects, head across to our website at sheridan.co.uk and click on that hire us button. If you do find this video useful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notifications icon to receive notifications of any new videos as they are released. So let's head over and quickly take a look at the difference between this unit and the previous two units that we've reviewed. So the main differences between the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus is obviously the number of drive bays that each unit has. This one only has 2 and the DS420 Plus has 4. Now the 1520 Plus does come with 5 drive bays as standard, but that is extendable to 15 using expansion units. So you'll notice both of them have the same, both the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus, pretty much the same CPU. The 1520 Plus has a higher CPU to cope with the higher storage capacities. They're all 64-bit architecture. Both the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus have dual-core CPUs, and the 1520 Plus comes with a quad-core CPU. Moving on to have a look at the memory capacity of each unit. Both the DS220 Plus and the 420 Plus both come with 2 GB of RAM of standard, and the 1520 Plus has a total of 8 GB as standard. However, both the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus can be expanded to a maximum of 6 GB of RAM. The DS1520 Plus can't be expanded any further than how it comes with the 8 GB of RAM in total. Looking at the storage of these two units, as we mentioned, the DS220 Plus has 2 drive bays as standard. The 420 Plus has the 4 drive bays, the 1520 Plus has the 5 drive bays. However, both the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus are not expandable from the number of drive bays that they come with. However, the DS1520 Plus is expandable to a maximum of 15 drives using the DX517 expansion unit. If you're looking at M2 drive slots, the 220 Plus doesn't have any, whereas both the 420 Plus and the 1520 Plus both have 2 NVMe slots for your M2 SSDs. All of them will take standard SSDs for storage, but for caching, only the 420 Plus and the 220 and the 1520 Plus will support caching on them. Cost for maximum single volume size is exactly the same, with all of them supporting 100 terabyte maximum. They're all hot swappable, obviously. External ports is what we can look at next. So both the DS220 Plus and the 420 Plus both come with 2 onboard network ports, whereas the 1520 Plus comes with 4. Now they all support link aggregation and failover support. With regard to USB ports, they've all got 2 3.2 USB ports. eSATA expansion ports, both the 220 Plus and the 420 Plus are not expandable with it, don't have external eSATA ports, and the 1520 Plus does have 2 of them. Now, out of all these units, both the 420 Plus and the 1520 Plus don't support this USB SD copy. Only the 220 Plus supports that. Across file systems, that's pretty much standard across all the units. The rest of the features are pretty much the same across the board, so I'm not really going to go through them anymore. However, what we will do is pull the 420 Plus out of the box and take a look at it. So the 420 Plus, let's change that microphone a bit. Right, so on the back of it, you can see we have 2 fans for keeping the drives cool. We have the 2 RJ45 network ports, the spot for the power. We've got a USB expansion port, and the factory reset is here. So if you need to do that, you can stick a pin in it or whatever. On the bottom of the drive, of the unit, sorry, we have 2 slots for fitting the NVMEs for caching. Looking on the front of the unit, we have the status light, as we do with the other units, this 1, this 2, this 3 and this 4 status lights. We've got the other USB 3 slot here and the power button. So the drive caddies are also toolless, and you'll notice on this version, which the difference between this and the 220 Plus is the 220 Plus that I had didn't have you wasn't able to lock the drives in. It's always handy to be able to do. So we'll go ahead and fit the drives again. In fact, before we fit the rest of the drives, we have the European power lead, and we have a box with the actual power adapter in it and 2 network cables. So as for the hard drives we're using Seagate Ironwolf 4TB drives. Let's go ahead and pull that. Move the unit over here a second. And so both, as with the review that we did on the 220 Plus and the 1520 Plus, the fitting of the drives is actually toolless. So put it in the right way, Sam. So stick the drive on the top and then ensure the sides match up and you can actually see the holes, and go ahead and stick this back on. So no tools needed, and with that we can just slide that straight in, upside down, and that's basically how to fit the drive. So we'll go ahead and do that for the other 3 drives. Let's see from this angle to put it in. So with all the drives mounted, we're pretty much ready to power it up. Power adapter in. I'm going to go ahead and take my network cable and plug it into on 1 to get started. And then we can power the unit up. So you'll notice we had the system start beep. So let's go ahead and see if we can find the system. In the previous videos, when I've set these up, I've shown you how to do it going through the auto discovery method. There's not always a need to do that. If you've got access to your DHCP server, it's pretty easy to find them. What I mean by that, is our DHCP server, and you can tell that our Synology NAS is on 10.1.10.111. So we're just going to stick that into a browser. And we have our DS420 Plus. So let's go ahead and click on the setup button. Do you want to install the latest DSM? Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, I understand. So at this point, it's installing the disk station manager, and it says it'll be ready in about 10 minutes. So we'll come back to that in a second. Now we're just doing a restart. So we've rebooted and we're now installing the built-in packages. Oh, welcome to DSM7. So let's get started. Give it a device name, administrator account and password. So we have the options of what we want to do. So automatically install important disk station manager and package updates only recommended. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Create a Synology account. We've already got one, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So access your Synology from anywhere. Now this is where you can stick a name in, do quick connect.2 to be able to access it remotely. I'm going to skip this stage. Explore of useful tools. Yeah, we'll just submit that. So now we're installed. The first thing we need to do from here is to set up our storage pool. So we'll go ahead and create that. So we're going to set it to our RAID type to SHR for this. You can set it to SHR for single drive failure, or SHR2 for to allow for dual drive failures. I'm just going to set it to SHR1 for this. You can put a description of the pool that you're creating if you want. We'll go ahead and next that. So select at least one drive to create the storage pool. So we're going to go with all of them. And you can say estimated capacity is 10.9 terabytes. Allocate the maximum size. Now you can go with BTRFS or you can go with X4 file system. I'm going to go with BTRFS because it allows for snapshotting, etc. Go ahead. Okay, all the data will be erased. They're brand new drives, so that's fine. So system configuration backup files found in your Synology account. Would you like to restore? No, it's a different one. Yep, that's fine. You can see the system health, how much CPU and RAM is being used. You can see the drives. We've got 4 4TB hard drives in here, and they're all showing as healthy. So now it's doing optimizing. That's it. The drives are all ready, and you're pretty much ready to start creating your shares from there. Right, we can go ahead and create our first share. So in order to create a share, go into Control Panel, Shared Folder. Go ahead and just click on Create. So we want to create a shared folder. Give it a name. So I'll just call it Shared. I'm not bothered about the description, so you can hide this, hide the folder from appearing in My Network Places. You can hide the subfolder and files from users that don't have permission. You can enable the recycle bin, and you can restrict access to administrators to the recycle bin. So let's go ahead and create it. If you want to create an encrypted folder, you can go ahead and stick a encryption key in. Don't forget it. Enable data checksum for advanced data integrity. It's a good idea. Enable file compression, and you can go ahead and enable folder quota if you'd like to. Go ahead and create the share. And this is where you can assign what permissions people have. So I'm just going to leave it as default. Admin has permission anyway. Now we should be able to access our share. What was it? 10.1, 10.11. go ahead and stick in whatever credentials it used. And there's our shared folder. So we can go ahead and create a file in there. And edit content, some content. And there's your first shared folder. So deleting shares, you can obviously edit them, delete them. Yeah, I understand. And stick your administrator password in, or password for deleting the account. And that's done. So while we're in the control panel, we've got the file services. So by default, Windows shares are enabled. You can set up NFS services, FTP, if you're really using FTP for anything, rsync. If you go into users and groups, that's where you can set up your users and your groups. Domain LDAP, I'll allow you to use LDAP or domain authentication. I'll go through that in a separate video. You can configure external access. In here you can, under network, you can set the server name. Under network interfaces, you can change the addresses or bind the interfaces together. So as I say, I'll do a more in-depth video on this. You've got security, so you can set the auto logout timer, improve protection against cross-site forgery attacks. Can enable two-factor authentication in there. You can enable the firewall. As I say, I'll do a more advanced video on this stuff. Regional options. So under your regional options, you're going to want to make sure that this is set right. So I'm in London, so this is correct. You can manually set the times, set your languages. If you want to enable an NTP service, we can also go into package center. Now this will give us a list of packages that you can install on the Synology. Active Backup, for example, Active Backup for Microsoft 365. As I'm planning on doing more videos on these. Got Essential Antivirus. It can be set up as a DHCP server, DNS. There's a lot of options for what you can do with the Synology. But as I say, I'm going to plan on doing some more videos on that, and it is getting late, so I do need to get home before the wife murders me. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button. It does help with YouTube, and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to hit that notifications icon to receive notifications of any new videos as they are released. And always, if you'd like to hire us, head across to our website at sheridan.co.uk and click on that hire us button. I'll see you in the next video.